You're listening to the Business Communicators, presented by IABC Houston. And now your hosts, Austin Stetton, Hattie Horn, and Thomas Bain.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 26 of The Business Communicators, a podcast presented by IABC Houston. My name is Austin Stetton, joined alongside my co-host, Hattie Horn, and Thomas Bain on this journey as we explore the key issues and trends that impact us as communicators. And of course, we are the number one podcast for all things business communications. That's a verifiable fact, and we hope that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. To do that, just search at BizCommunicator on social or visit our website, thebusinesscommunicators.com. But Thomas, you are in the midst of moving right now. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
You know, we try not to make this a weather thing, but it is somewhere downpouring buckets of rain. So actually closing here in a few minutes. And so this is the last broadcast from Pearland, Texas. Well, maybe not the last, but last one from my house.
Never say never.
Exactly. We'll have to do Killing Steakhouses are in person.
Yeah, exactly. Hattie, how is it going? How's everything on your end?
It's going well. Just loving all the rain.
See, I'm not loving the rain. I mean, I want sunshine. Hey, I am fine that it's not 100 degrees this summer.
Well, it's not exactly. It's just starting.
Fair point. Well, we are going to make this episode a little bit on the shorter side. And so just to give you context, Thomas is about to leave to go sign, I guess, close for the new house. So we are going to try to get him out as quickly as possible. But just to give our listeners a little bit of context, so this is episode 26 of Season 3. We are going to conclude Season 3 with episode 28. So we have, outside of this, we have 2 more episodes left of this season. Then we're going to take a little pause during the summer months. We're going to still, produce content, do bonus episodes, still conduct interviews, but we're going to take a little break, and we'll come back in the fall for Season 4. So more information to come in the upcoming days on that. But wow, interesting week for the energy industry. Did you guys see the headline out of Paris? Total, one of the major energy companies in the world, one of the leaders when it comes to really embracing climate change and net zero, is deciding to change its name. They are switching their name to Total Energies. This is kind of an interesting move. So they proposed this during a shareholders general assembly on May 28th, and this comes after Total has really invested heavily in solar and wind power, but it's been under a lot of pressure from, climate organizations, ENGOs in Europe. And so they decided to make this change. Is this a good move for Total to make the name change their logo, to really, I guess, prove that they're embracing the road to 2050?
It's interesting because I remember reading the story yesterday about ExxonMobil losing board seats because of the environmental investors. The thing that was interesting the most about this change with them was it was from a shareholder meeting where 92% said, yes, we want to be zero emissions by 2050. 99.88% voted for the rebrand. And we've talked on it about how much rebrands cost. I don't think you can get away with a Nike rebrand anymore. So I'm just, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how much are they going to be spending on this? Does it go into their total budget on the rebrand or on the zero emissions? That's really where my question's at.
Yeah, and Hattie, it's not like it was a major rebrand, right? It's not like they went from Apple to Orange. They went from Total to Total Energies.
For me, it just sounds like they're trying to, they did say why they did it. One of the things what interests me about companies who change their name, most of the times it's if they're having a major crisis and they're going through something and they feel like, oh gosh, we got to get people focused on something else. So let's change our name and do that. And it's not exactly a crisis for them. They're just focusing. It looks like they're just trying to make sure that everybody knows, okay, we have a full portfolio of things that we do, and we just want people to know this is what we do. But if you haven't been doing a good job of helping people know what you really do with that one name, what difference is it going to make if you change your name all over again?
But that's the thing. I think Total has done a great job of letting people know that they are really embracing the energy transition. There's a reason why their share price, even during COVID, was tops among all of the majors. So I think that's really important to consider as well. So I understand, changing your corporate ambition and moving towards net zero, really embracing climate change and renewable energy. I think that's incredibly important, and I'm glad to see that their messaging is there. But when it comes to rebranding the name, I'm not sure that that's worth the time, especially when it's not such a significant name. I mean, you look at what their chief executive said in a statement. He said the group is expressing its intention to transform itself into a multi-energy company to respond to the twin challenges faced by energy transitions, more energy and fewer emissions. But environmental activists have said that, more still needs to be done. International Energy Agency said all future fossil fuel projects must be scrapped if the world is to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So it seems like no matter what happens, there's still going to be naysayers out there. So I'm not sure that this really addresses the issue. I think actions speak louder than words. If these companies are really about getting to net zero, it's the results. And I think that's what that's what shareholders are going to be looking at moving forward. So you can communicate all you want, but unless you put results on the table, people are going to see right through the spin. So I think that is a little bit interesting. But I will say that there was one rebrand for an energy company that I think did a really good job. And I think it does kind of highlight, the transition that they made. But Statoil is a Norwegian company. And in 2018, they announced that they were diversifying their offerings. And so they changed their name to Equinor. And that makes a ton of sense. When you are getting out of a lot of energy, change your name completely, especially if it has oil in there. So I totally get that rebrand. Total, I'm not really sure.
I'm wondering if it's just a new logo. I think GM, I think of the Deloitte green dot. I think of MD Anderson making cancer history with the red line through it, because making cancer history was already one of their taglines. It was just the red line through it. Or I wonder if it's going to be more like the British Petroleum to BP to Beyond Petroleum. But yeah, no, I think your example's spot on, Austin. That was a perfect one.
We'll see what happens, but I wanted to play a quick fun game real quick. So when I was looking at other famous corporations that have undergone name changes, I came across a list on CNBC, and this list had 19 companies that had undergone name changes. And so you guys haven't seen this list. I've seen this list. So I'm going to name the old company, and I want you both to try to guess what the new company name is. We're going to start off with Brad's Drink. Any idea what Brad's Drink is now?
7-Up.
Close.
Jack Daniels.
I wish. It's Pepsi Cola. Pepsi Cola. So the Caleb brothers, they were pharmacists named Caleb Bradham. And so to shorten it up, they put Brad's Drink. So interesting there. Blue Ribbon Sports. Blue Ribbon Sports.
I see Blue Ribbon. I think Pabst Blue Ribbon is what I think of, but I know that's not it. Blue Ribbon Sports. I have no idea. Anything I guess is going to be wrong.
Patty, what's your guess?
Budweiser.
Nike. Nike is the correct answer there. All right. What about Auction Web? Auction
Amazon?
Web. Close.
Amazon.
Very
eBay.
Close. eBay. That's correct. All right. What about Backrub?
What?
Backrub. And this company has actually undergone a few name changes.
Icy Hot?
Nope. You're going to have no clue.
What about the Back Shop? But I don't think that's right.
So Backrub is now known as Google. Back in
Okay,
1996.
I don't like this game. Let's move on.
Back in 1996, Larry Page and Serge Brin created the company under Backrub, and now it's under Alphabet. So I thought that was interesting, but I'm just going to run through quickly some other names. Quantum Computing Services, AOL. Sound of Music is now known as Best Buy. Of course, Apple Computers went to Apple Inc. Research in Motion is now BlackBerry. Starbucks Coffee, Tea and Spice. Now Starbucks makes a little more sense. Drive Yourself is now known as Hertz Rent-A-Car. Computing, Tabulating, Recording Corporation is now known as IBM. And Pete's Submarines is now Subway. And the last one, Ward's Company, is now Circuit City. So did think that was a little bit interesting.
I figured you were going to say Minnesota Manufacturing and Mining is 3M.
It wasn't on the list.
But it's interesting. Those all make a little more sense. It's better than some of those name changes or branding where they just combine a bunch of names together. Hey, we're going to merge AOL and Time Warner, and it's going to be AOL Time Warner.
There's a barbecue joint here in Houston. We mentioned them when we had the barbecue snob on the podcast, but Koi Barbecue here in Houston, they actually had to rename their, I guess, branding or title or whatever, because I guess the company that they had originally chosen, there was another name of a barbecue joint like New York City, and they, filed a cease and desist, and so they switched to Koi Barbecue, I guess, which means smoke in Vietnamese. So interesting stories. It's funny to see how these brands can swap up names.
When I was in college in PR class, we were talking about an example of changing your name, and a writer from Texas was saying, when I'm out and I have a Coke with my dinner, and Coke gave them a cease and desist order, and the PR person fired back saying, okay, well, next time I'll really write what I was ordering as a Dr. Pepper. So the different regionalities is just kind of fun.
I love it. Well, Hattie, moving on to our next topic of the day, you sent us a link from Ad Age, and it was about Twitter debuting subscription services for super users. And it's a platform called Twitter Blue, which will cost $2.99 a month for access to tools, including the ability to resend tweets and organize posts. Hattie, tell us a little bit more about this.
Basically, as I was reading in the subscription services, it's going to be an opportunity not only for folks who are considered super. I look at them, somebody I guess who posts 55 times a day or more than 5 times a day. They're going to be able to delete their post if they don't, before they send it out, review it. You'll be able to review longer posts. You'll be able to organize your post a little bit better. So it looks like Twitter's really trying to provide some flexibility there for folks who use Twitter a lot. And while I think that's a good thing, I also, and it's also about ads too. If you're putting ads out there, they can put, longer ads out there. So because Twitter makes most of their money off of ads anyway, this is just another way to generate revenue, it looks like. And I don't know that it's a bad thing or a good thing. I'm one of those people who sit back and watch and see who's going to jump on that wagon.
I don't know that I'm going to pay $2.99 a month for this service.
But do you consider yourself a super user?
I am addicted to Twitter. If there was one social media app that I had to keep, it would be Twitter, without question.
But is it reading or posting?
Definitely. Well, it depends. I mean, because I manage, the Business Communicators, Cautious Coffee, my own handle. So I'm posting multiple times a day on multiple different accounts. But there's a few things that I would want to see before I actually paid for premium access to Twitter. One, that would be remove all the ads, because I don't like the ads. There's a reason why I used to pay for an app called Tweetbot before Twitter removed the API for it, because you didn't have to pay for ads. You didn't have to see the ads in your timeline, and that was so great. So I would do it for that. The other one is the ability to edit a tweet. And I know that this is something that Jack Dorsey has said that Twitter is probably not going to do, because for example, if a tweet goes completely viral, then, someone can maybe edit the tweet and then change the context of it. But I think that's part of the problem, is when tweets do go viral, sometimes they're going viral because somebody's trying to be first rather than correct. And when they do correct their tweet, they might reply to it, and, the fake news tweet gets 100,000 retweets and the correction only gets a handful of tweets. So I would like to see an edit feature, but it would come with a caveat. You could only edit it within the first 5 minutes, because sometimes we've done typos and we just really want to change a typo. So that's my take.
For clarification, the way I read it, you can edit before you post. It didn't say anything about after posting you can pull it off and edit it.
Right. And editing before your post.
That's a little different.
But editing before your post is no different than, typing it out in Microsoft Word and then copy and pasting into Twitter. What I'm saying that I would like to see is once you hit tweet, once you hit send, and you realize, oh shoot, I spelled that word wrong, or I used the wrong there instead of, THEIR, then you can go back and edit and make that grammatical change.
Well, as a communicator, I would hope we would check all that before we put it out.
Sometimes it happens.
We're supposed to be the experts now.
We are, but we also admit that, sometimes we don't know how to spell your or to or there.
You admit that you don't know how to spell your or to. Speak for Thomas now.
But I look at it a little different spin, is because if you have the ability to like do your ads and things like that, and I think one of the reasons why we talk about the fake news and the divisive line is because there's a lot of bad actors who are promoting their tweets or who are promoting their posts on any of the things, and in essence they're really just advertising companies or bots that are ran by an advertising company. And so I'm all for any sort of barrier to entry, and $2.99 is not going to really stop that many people, but I've said it on the podcast before that we need to have some sort of checks and balances as professionals to say that this person is a legitimate source before that, a flag or something like that, versus this is possible a bot.
Yeah,
who's just stirring the pot.
We spoke about that last week on the podcast when I suggested that people should be verified and they have to prove their identity, because I think if you're hiding behind a computer screen, you're more likely to say things that are stupid, maybe things that you wouldn't say in person. I think that's kind of a dangerous element of what we're seeing a lot on social media. But one thing that I do like that Twitter has done in the last month, and they're sort of beta testing this right now with a few creators, is they are adding a tip option for creators. So hopefully within the next year, I think they're going to roll it out to a broader audience, but that could be good for someone like us, who, if people want to see our content and they like our content, instead of going through like a Patreon or a PayPal or something like that, they can just click the tip feature in our profile and, send $1, $2, $5, $1 million, whatever it is. So I think that's a cool feature that is going to, I think, help creators stay on the platform rather than maybe starting their own, Substack page.
Like I said, I'm on the Hattie's thing. I want to sit back, watch, see how this unfolds. The revenue stream's always going to be advertising.
Thomas, I know we're getting to the point where you have to go drive up north to close on your house, so we'll go ahead and let you go. But before we do, any parting words for our listeners this week?
Hey, it's been a fun journey this past season. I'm looking forward to the last 2 episodes. And thank you all for all of our listeners and followers. And, I will see y'all next week.
Well, Hattie, now that we've gotten rid of Thomas, it's time to go into the fun part of the episode.
You're so messy.
It's all right. We would tell him this to his face. It's okay. So
We just did. He probably heard us.
But you shared, I think this is a great segue to our next topic, but you shared a company, or I guess an article from Fast Company in our group thread. It was Google and MIT proving that social media can slow the spread of fake news. So Jigsaw, which I guess is a Google-based company, they published with MIT a new study that proves sharing misinformation can be thwarted by a simple UX fix. So UX is user experience. So Hattie, tell us a little bit about this and kind of why it matters.
It's really interesting. The study calls for as many as, it says, one of the stories is that 1 in 4 adults claim they will not get the vaccine, right? And we already have enough doses. But the new study was saying that it hopes to fix some of that misinformation on the social networks. The study involved almost 9,500 American participants, and researchers found that a few simple UI, I stand for, I'm so slow,
I think it's
can stop people from sharing fake news around COVID-19. They introduced some prompts through a single pop-up window to get people to think about the accuracy about what they're going to share and to consider the story's accuracy. It said people were up to 20% less likely to share a piece of fake news. In other words, they're sort of treating people like journalists. Go back and fact check your information. You're the owner of it, so you have to go back and fact check to see that the information is accurate. Now, I, for one, think that's really interesting that they want people to do that, but it makes me wonder, are people really gonna do that?
Well, that's a great question, because if you read toward the bottom of the article from Fast Company, it says the only problem is that we still don't understand a key piece of the puzzle. How long do these prompts work? When do their effects wear off? And do users begin to tune them out? So I think that's really interesting. And I don't know. I would be concerned about that. Like, it might be a short-term solution, but I'm not sure it's a long-term solution to a problem that is continuing to grow.
Yeah, I think it's a good concept, but like you said, it'll be interesting to see, or I'd be concerned because, like you say, people may tend to tune out because people tune out now because they get distracted. They have so much information out there, and then they don't always read; they just share. And the prompts, I can just see them click off, click off, click off. I don't care. I'm just sharing because they just want to get it out of the way.
100%. It's like when, there's a few newspapers out there that, they might not require you to log in to read the article, but sometimes they require you to fill out a brief survey. And usually what I do is just click the top option each time and then just go forth. So I don't know that those surveys are necessarily accurate. That's maybe why you shouldn't trust internet surveys or data, because some people are just trying to speed through it.
Exactly.
So I do think it's an interesting issue. I think it's an interesting piece of technology, but I don't know that it's quite there yet. So we'll continue to see how this spreads. But I think technology is going to have to get smarter to mitigate some of this fake news and misinformation that we're starting to see on the internet. But I did, that kind of did remind me, early on when you mentioned vaccines, I did see a study this week, and it was talking about vaccine rates in the U.S. So we obviously saw a peak of vaccinations per day. I think it was toward the end of March, first half of April, somewhere in that time frame is when we started to peak. And then, we went from like 2 million, 3 million doses a day down to right now where we're at is about 600,000. But interestingly enough, when Joe Biden and the CDC announced that if you had your vaccine, you didn't have to wear a mask anymore, we saw spikes in the number of visits to vaccine locator websites. And so I do think that had a positive effect. And I believe the New York Times covered it late last week, but it said that we've leveled off over the past few days, over the past week or two in terms of vaccine rates, which is good because the trend had been falling if you look at a chart like a roller coaster, but it's almost leveled off. So people are still getting them, maybe not at the pace that we want. I think the president has said that he would like 70% of America to be vaccinated by July 4th. And I think if we continue at the current pace, it's going to be somewhere between 67 and 68%. But I did think that was interesting, that maybe providing an incentive such as if you can take off your mask, that was enough for maybe some of the people that were maybe on the fence to make that jump and get the jab.
Yeah, I still think there's also some issues, though, with certain groups of people not getting the vaccine. So that information is out there that they're still trying to focus on getting younger people to get it. The other piece of information that's out there, but it's not misinformation, is that most people have gotten at least one dose of the vaccine. So, and they're feeling comfortable with that. And as I was watching the news around Memorial Day, the airlines were up. Air flights were up. You had people in line. I've also been out to stores. I was in a store where it said on the outside, you must wear a mask to go in. It's required before you enter. But there are some folks who are not wearing a mask. So people are really getting comfortable. They see what they think is the right piece of information, and it might not be. So while the numbers have changed dramatically in terms of, the reduction, how much of it is really true that people believe in? So.
And then plus, the variants too. There's still a lot we don't know, but our biggest recommendation, we've said this on so many different episodes, get the vaccine. I know that, there's maybe some people that don't like vaccines in general, but do it. Do it for those who can't. As Thomas said last week on the show, that's our message to you. But Hattie, this has been a fun conversation, and I'm glad that we got to have some one-on-one time for the last 10 minutes without Thomas. It was great. Maybe for season 4 we should just do the Austin and Hattie show. I think our viewership would probably go up a little bit more. But I will stop with the smack talk now. I'm only doing this to see if Thomas actually listens. to the episodes to see what we discuss when he's not here. So Thomas, once you do listen to this, shoot us a text and say, I hate you guys. Something like
Don't
that.
say you hate me, because whatever I have to say, I'm going to wait till you come back. And I'm going to say it to your
Fair.
face. I don't wait.
Fair.
I'm not going to record it. I'm not going to say it behind your back. When you come back, that's when I'll talk my smack.
I love it. Well, Hattie, we definitely encourage that all of our listeners, if they're not already subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe, share it with a friend, follow us on social media, just search @BizCommunicator on all of the platforms. We're there. And of course, you can visit our website, thebusinesscommunicators.com. But Hattie, do you have any final comments or takeaways for our listeners this week?
As people are moving back into the workplace, communications is just going to be so much more important than what it was. It's not that it wasn't important while people were working remotely, but it's going to be even more important as people are moving back into the workplace and feeling more comfortable and moving around. So if there's any information that you put out there, make sure that it's accurate, make sure it's consistent, and make sure that it's clear.
And be sure to look at the workplace dynamics. I mean, they are going to change. You're going to have some people when the office opens, they're going to be there 5 days a week. And you have others that they're going to be there 2 to 3 days a week. So know that your employees are going to be working in different ways. So really focus on agility and maybe talk to some people that are experts or have dealt with remote working, prior to the past year and maybe how they handled it. So great recommendation from Hattie. And we hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Business Communicators, and of course stay tuned for the final 2 episodes of season 3. We will close out season 3 on Monday, June 21st. We've got a really, really good interview scheduled for you guys, and we hope that you are going to enjoy. But only 2 more episodes left of season 3 before we take a break and head into season 4. But on behalf of my co-hosts this week, Thomas Bain and Hattie Horn, my name's Austin Staton, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Business Communicators. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review.